Hello, and in this training video we will cover the account pod. Starting in the patient summary screen, you can view and access the account pod. Viewing it from the patient summary, you can see the patient's balance, any patient credit amounts, insurance balances, collection balances, and then family balances, credit, and collection amounts as well. To expand the pod, select the two arrows pointing away from each other. Entering in the account pod, you will start in the Invoices area. The top part of this screen is a search area. You can search by specific invoice numbers, different payer types, different statuses of the invoice, service dates, a specific payer name, and any locations. In this case, we're going to search for insurance invoices that are active. I'm going to click my blue search button. This will now load only my active insurance invoices. You can see those invoices here in the grid below. By selecting the checkbox of any invoices, this will enable your action dropdown. From this action dropdown, you can print invoices, print statements, print a summary of those invoices, and if you use TriZetto to send your statements, send statements. You may not see this as an option. This would depend on what you have signed up for with TriZetto. From this results grid, there are two ways to open the invoice. Single-clicking anywhere on this line will open up the invoice within the accounting module and invoices. You can easily access that patient by selecting the hyperlink or just clicking your patient module to bring you back to the account pod. Another way to open the invoice would be to simply single-click the hyperlink for the invoice number. Selecting the invoice number will open up the invoice directly from the account pod. To the far right of the account pod is the account summary. This is where you can see the patient's balance, the patient's credit, any insurance balances, or collection balances. You will also have a few different options listed here. These options will change depending on if the patient has any credit or if you have permissions to use these features. You can use the Transfer Credit button to transfer any of the amounts you see here listed under Patient Credit to another family member. Simply single-click the button, select the linked patient you would like to send that credit to, put in the amount of the credit you would like to send to the patient, and click the Save button. That will reduce your patient credit and send that credit to the other family member. Selecting Ad Hoc Credit will allow you to bring in a credit amount from a different EHR. Think of it more as a credit that is not given from a return or a refund. If we single-click the button, here we can select the amount we're bringing in. You can select a location that amount is going to go to. You can change your date as necessary if you wanted to match any data transfers or any specific date. And then you can put in a description. Selecting Save will increase that patient credit by whatever amount we inputted. When you're ready to refund any patient credit amounts listed here, you can select the Refund button. Here, you can put the amount that you're going to refund. You can select the method that you're going to refund the patient from, the location that you'd like to refund from, change your date as necessary, and then put any reference numbers you would like to. The comment box is not required and neither is the reference number. You can choose to leave these blank or put in an option. Selecting Save in the bottom right will allow you to refund that amount. Now we're going to go over the different tabs of the account pod. We start in our Invoices tab. We're going to look at our payment history next. This tab will list all payments made to the patient's account. If you wanted to view any voided payments, you can change your status to all, and then this will show you which amounts are either pending or voided. In this case, we have one saved or pending payment, and we have no voided payments. Within the payment history, the invoice number is a hyperlink to open up the invoice. Now we'll look at our refund history. The Refund History tab will list all refunds made to this patient. You can void a refund made in error by selecting the red X to the far right of the refund. Simply input your reasoning and click Apply. You can also print a refund receipt by selecting the blue print icon. Like our payment history, you can look at the different statuses as necessary if you wanted to view what was voided, what is still currently applied, or both voided and applied. Next is our Credit History tab. Like Refund History, this will list all credits to the patient. You can void any credits done in error by selecting the red X to the far right of the credit. Input your reason as necessary and select Apply. You can view the statuses of these credits as well by changing your status in the top. The Statements History tab will provide a list of statement information that was sent to the patient. This will include the printed date, the due date, messages, and any statement amounts that were sent. I'm going to go ahead and head back into my Invoices tab. To create an invoice directly from the account pod, you're going to select the plus button in the top right. When you select the plus button, you can choose the payer you would like to create an invoice for. You can select either a patient invoice or an insurance invoice. Because we selected insurance, we will now select our insurance payer that we're going to create the invoice for. We'll simply single click the payer, and then we'll be offered a chance to associate this to any encounters. You can associate this to an encounter by single clicking the encounter, or you simply can click the skip if you do not want this invoice associated to a specific encounter. Now that we have our insurance invoice started, I'm going to go ahead and use this green Add button to add an item to our invoice. Selecting the green plus button will allow us to access our inventory and add items directly to the invoice. In this case, I'm going to add an eyeglass frame. I'm going to find the frame that I would like to add. I'm going to add it from my inventory, and I can tell that this item was added because of the green success message in the top right. I'm going to close this box, and we will see that item is now added directly to our invoice. The invoice is comprised of 3 different areas. You have your invoice header, which is this top area of the invoice. You have your invoice tabs listed here. And you have the item details listed below. Your invoice header will be visible within any tab you are of the invoice. Here you can see the payer type, the invoice number, the invoice status, the patient name, which also hyperlinks to the patient's dashboard, any alerts, the location name, provider name, invoice date, and invoice age. Next, in your invoice header, you will have your invoice approval and a few action buttons. Please note that your action buttons will change depending on if the invoice is approved or if the invoice is pending. When we change this to authorized, you will notice our buttons changed. You also have additional action buttons listed below this ellipsis. In Revolution EHR, your insurance invoice is also your claim. On insurance invoices, you will have a Preview Claims button, a Print Claims button, and a View Data file. Both insurance and patient invoices will have your Print button on the far right. Within your invoice subheader, you will see a Bill To with a payer name, priority, an address, your service date. If the invoice is associated to an exam, it will hyperlink directly into that exam. You also have a fee schedule, a fee date, and your different invoice tabs. In order to edit any of the information within your invoice header, you'll need to have your invoice set to pending, and the items that are editable will have a pencil icon to the right of them. In this case, if I wanted to change the doctor associated to the invoice, I would select the pencil icon, select the provider from the list of available providers, and click Save. To change your status of an invoice, you will select again the pencil icon to the far right. Please note, voiding an invoice cannot be undone. To go over all of the available action buttons, invoice tabs, and item details, please see our video breaking down an invoice. This concludes our video on the account pod. Please remember to use our knowledge base and contact us for additional assistance.